lived in New York, studied in Harvard, fell in love with Arabic music and Middle Eastern dancing, went to Egypt, stayed there for 10 years. This is the story of Luna of Cairo. I met her at Cassandra Dance Company, where she's gonna perform in her show Sparkles. We talked about her love for Arabic music and Middle Eastern dancing. What was it like living in Egypt for 10 years as an American Middle Eastern dancer?
That's a story that goes back 20 years. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, and there's always been a very large Middle Eastern community there. And one day I just happened to see an Arabic band and a dancer at a restaurant. And it was the first time that I had heard that music or seen that kind of dancing, and I fell in love with it. I really loved the music, and I had never heard anything like that before. So I just needed an excuse to be around this music, so I said, okay, I have to learn how to dance. And I had already been dancing my whole life, doing ballet and jazz and different types of dances that we do in this country. So I said, okay, I'll start belly dancing. And little by little, I found myself becoming addicted, kind of obsessed. And I made my whole life revolve around this dance. So at some point, I got into graduate school. I went to Harvard to do Middle Eastern studies. And that actually wasn't for dance reasons. That I was just interested in the region after 9/11, to be completely honest. And so while I was doing my master's program, I said, let me find a way to go to Egypt and study this dance. And I did that by applying for a Fulbright scholarship from the State Department. And to my luck, they gave me this grant for 9 months. They were going to fund me to do some academic research on the dance. And so the project that I proposed was how increasing Islamification of the country was impacting or not the belly dance scene. So they approved my project. I went there and I started doing some field work, interviewing different dancers and anybody connected to the scene. And at the same time, I was taking belly dance lessons, and somebody eventually discovered me and offered me work as a dancer at a 5-star hotel. And I said, okay, I'm going to try it. And I liked it, and then everything just snowballed. I developed a career. I never planned on staying for 10 years. I always said to myself, okay, I'm just going to stay 1 year and I'm going to go home. And then the year would finish and I'd say, okay, well, I'm going home. And then I just kept on getting more and more work, and it kept getting better and better. So I said, all right, I'm just going to prolong it a little more till 10 years later.
About your field project there in Egypt, you're talking to anybody involved in dancing. What did you learn from all of this, and how important that form of art is in Egypt?
Honestly, what I learned is that they do not see this dance as an art necessarily the way that we in the United States or in Europe see it. So I remember going into different venues, nightclubs, cabarets, and getting permission from the managers to interview the dancers. And I would always use the word art. So I speak Arabic, and I conducted my interviews in Arabic, and the word for art in Arabic is fan. An artist is fannan or fannana. So I would use these words, and they would look at me like I'm crazy, like, what is that? What do you mean? So I noticed that, first of all, the majority of dancers there are low-skilled, unskilled women. A lot of them are illiterate. And so they get into this profession not for a love of the art. They're not even aware of what the concept art means. They do it because this is survival for them. It literally is either begging on the streets to make money or doing this dance. It's the easiest thing you can do without having any kind of skill set. So it's unfortunate, but it's true. And that's the first eye-opener that I really encountered. A lot of them are coming from abusive households. A lot of them are running away from their families. A lot of them are running away from abusive partners. A lot of them have drug addictions. So it's really not glamorous and romantic the way we think it is here. It has nothing to do with that. So that is what I learned about the dance.
And you stayed 10 years.
And I stayed 10 years because that was not my reality. It was interesting to be immersed in that scene and to see it for what it really is. The challenge then for me was to not let that affect me and not let that impact my view of myself, not let that impact how I see this art, for me to keep on seeing it as an art, because for me it is. Again, it comes down to each individual. So at the end of the day, no matter how long I spent in Egypt, I'm not Egyptian, and so my reality and my grounding is different. I still see the art in it, and I keep the art in it.
So how do people look at you, the people you work with, people who hire you and the people who watch you? Do they look at you as non-Egyptian dancer? Is it the same thing, looking frowned about, looking down on you?
Everything is on a spectrum, right?
Yeah.
So, yes, people hired me. They were happy with my performances. I am a foreign dancer. So I was a few notches up above on the totem pole than, let's say, some local Egyptian dancer. I would say I got afforded a little bit more respect just because they know that I'm coming from the United States. Your nationality is really important. If you come from the US, you're coming from the superpower. Wow, this is something amazing. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of people treating me like I'm some kind of celebrity just because I'm American and I'm a dancer.
As a Middle Eastern dancer in Egypt, she earned respect on the stage, off the stage.
Like I said, as a person, that's a different story. But as a dancer, they watch you. Okay, do you know how to dance or do you not know how to dance? Well,
how about the Egyptian dancers themselves?
Same thing.
Really?
Same thing. You will gain their respect if you know how to dance. And so there are plenty of foreign dancers who are very good. There are some who are not. But, it's like even with Egyptian dancers, there are some who are great. There are some who are not. But at the end of the day, I'm still a dancer. And, I wouldn't, if there were a man, for example, and he was interested in me, he cannot introduce me to his family as a dancer. And I had this experience where I was actually engaged. And
right.
Yeah, so I had this conversation with my fiance at the time. Things developed, and time to introduce you to the family. I said, okay, well, I'm not going to lie. We're just going to have to be honest. And his view was that he was going to hide it from them, give them a chance to know me as a person, and then, okay, later on, of course, they're going to figure it out, but they'll already have become attached to me. And I said, I don't think that's a good idea. I don't like to lie. I don't like to hide things. By the way, I'm pretty well known in your country. People know me. I've been on TV, people know me. They're going to figure it out. So he said, trust me, this is my culture, this is my family, I know them, you don't know how to act in this car. I said, fine, okay, I'm going to let you drive here. Well, his plan backfired. I met his family as a non-dancer, and it took them 1 week. 1 week. Between the television and social media, they were like, oh, wait, that's her, that's the dancer, and then everything blew up, and it caused a huge problem. Not only because of the lie, but because I am a dancer, so these things, they have affected me. I was kicked out of 2 apartment buildings when the landlords, plural, found out that I was a dancer, because I wouldn't tell them, because they won't rent their place out to you, because they have this idea that you're not a respectable woman, you're going to have men up in the house all the time. And again, it's a conservative religious society, they don't want that. So they have all these stereotypes. So whenever I was looking for an apartment, I would say half of the story, which is that I'm on a U.S. scholarship, I'm doing research, all this stuff. But again, people see the television, and they people aren't stupid. They connect the dots. So I got kicked out of 2 apartment buildings.
What did they tell you?
So the first guy said, we didn't know that you were a dancer and you didn't say that. I said, yep, I didn't say that. He said, well, I'm sorry, I can't have you stay in my apartment because we're people of God. So I said, okay.
I don't believe in a God that doesn't believe in dancing. But did they kick you out because you lied to them or because you were dancing?
No, because there's a part of me also that likes feeling like a foreigner or being out of my comfort zone. So having to constantly speak a foreign language, having to navigate, having to negotiate, having to argue on a daily basis, it does something for me mentally. Whereas I'm back in the U.S. right now, and I miss that. I miss that challenge. I miss how difficult everything is, and I feel like life is a little too easy here, to the point of being a little bit boring. And there are days where I fantasize about going back or
Coming back to the United States, it wasn't that easy. The reaction from her family and her friends, it was complicated.
got a lot of I got a lot of negative feedback from everyone from my family to people that didn't know me but that followed my dance career. Like, I've been called crazy. I've been told I'm wasting my life, and maybe a part of that is true, but at least I did it. At least I did it in a way that I wanted to. Like,
And are you gonna go back?
maybe. I don't know. When I left Egypt, I swore I'd never look back and I'd never go back to that country again.
Why did you leave Egypt after 10 years?
Because I got bored.
Got bored?
I got bored.
Really?
Yeah. After 10 years, I felt like, okay, I learned the language, I learned the mentality, there's not as much diversity in Egypt. So once you learn the culture and the language, you pretty much got it. So I just found myself like, okay, everyone and everything is so predictable. I know exactly what people are going to do, what they're going to think, what they're going to say.
Interesting.
Language, I just felt like I was stuck. And in terms of dancing, it's like, okay, I used to dance 7 days a week. I didn't have a day off for hours. I would start at 5 p.m. I had like early shows at 5 p.m. and my shows were 45 minutes to an hour, and I'd go all night, sometimes until 5 in the morning. Different venues. Maybe I would do two or three.
Place.
Well, no, different places. So maybe I would do like 2 or 3 shows on this boat, and then go and do a wedding, and then after that go and do 2 nightclubs. So I was extremely busy.
Who's arranging all this attendance?
Managers, talent agents. Sometimes customers would call me directly, but mainly it was through agents.
My goodness.
So imagine like doing that every single day, and rarely, I would only take a night off if I were really sick and not feeling well.
Something by choice, you can say no or whatever?
I could, but I'm a workaholic, and I'm also a little bit competitive. So if you say no, some other dancer is going to get the gig, and then work brings more work. Okay, so she just took a whole bunch of opportunities from me. So I was just very possessive, and I said, you know what? Unless I'm on my deathbed, I'm just going to go and do this. And
Dance your way to the grave.
yeah.
Few years after Lona arrived to Egypt, it was the revolutions that changed everything.
Of the protests, they were protesting police brutality, interestingly enough. And then 3 days later, January 28th, on a Friday, they called it the Friday of Wrath. That is when things took a turn for the violence, and there were riots. Everything came to a halt, everything, not just dancing, everything. A week after all that started, I booked a flight and I left. And then I came back about a month later after Mubarak had been deposed. I came back, I waited it out. I didn't have any dance work, probably for a good 6 months. Like, it started picking up, like, okay, maybe we had one show a week. I was just observing. I was just existing and observing and staying alive, really. Yeah. A lot of social media, a lot of Twitter and Facebook reporting things that were happening. But I didn't want to leave. It's like I got a front row seat to this historical event here. I was like, I'm not leaving. I was put in some pretty dangerous situations a couple times, but thank God, I'm still here. I'm living a very normal life right now, very normal American life.
Normal life?
Yeah. Full-time job.
You dance at all?
I dance on the weekends at nightclubs.
There?
Yeah. I teach dance workshops, and I also I teach Egyptian Arabic also. So I'm still very much connected to the dance and the culture surrounding it. Yeah. I wait tables at restaurants now. That's my new thing.
Well, it's a very fascinating story here in life, and you got it your way.
That's it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for talking to us. We wish you well with your performance.
Thank you.
We'll follow you and see your journey and see
Great.
where you're gonna. Because this is the story of an American who fell in love with Middle Eastern dancing, went to Egypt, learned the craft, danced professionally for 10 years. Now she's back. This is the story of Lona of Cairo. She got it her way.